Okay, picture this. Imagine two people. They both graduated from the exact same college, they joined the same company at the exact same time, and honestly, they're both equally smart. Welcome to Globet-Thoughts. In this explainer, we are diving deep into the 7 thinking mistakes that are silently destroying careers, probably without you even realizing it.
So, let's fast forward 5 years for those two people we just talked about. While employee B is absolutely thriving, they're leading major projects, they're earning way more money and growing rapidly, employee A is completely stuck in the mud. They're just sitting there waiting for a promotion, blaming bad luck, complaining about office politics, stressing over AI, and pointing fingers at the economy. So, what actually changed here? Well, it wasn't a difference in talent, and it definitely wasn't a difference in hard work. It was how they think. You see, your career is actually built twice, first in your mind and then in reality.
All right, let's get right into our first major theme, which is all about the illusion of merit.
Here's a hard truth. Companies do not reward you just for working harder. They reward you for working smarter on the right problems. So many professionals fall into this trap of thinking that working harder than everyone else is the ultimate metric for success. It's like employee A, who grinds for 12 hours a day doing all this brute force manual work and ultimately just ends up completely exhausted. Meanwhile, employee B works a standard 8 hours, but they use that time to automate repetitive tasks, communicate super clearly, and solve actual pressing business problems. Who do you think gets promoted? Usually it's employee B, right? Because hard work without a real strategy doesn't equal success. It just equals exhaustion.
So instead of just grinding out more and more hours, you've got to step back and ask yourself a few critical questions every single week. This is how you ensure you're actually making your manager's life easier. Ask yourself, are you solving important problems? Are you creating measurable value? You literally have to continually assess if your effort is translating into real-world impact. Remember, don't just work harder, work smarter on the problems that actually move the needle.
And that actually brings us directly to mistake number 2, remaining totally invisible. This happens when you hold on to the false belief that good work simply speaks for itself. We've all heard it, right? If I do good work, someone will notice. It sounds nice, but unfortunately, that is just not how the corporate world operates. Visibility is absolutely crucial. Yes, your work should speak for itself, but you also need to hand it a megaphone.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Being visible isn't about showing off or being arrogant. It is simply about communicating your contributions and making sure your valuable work is actually seen. You have to actively build your professional brand. Share your achievements with your team. Speak up and present your ideas in those meetings instead of staying quiet. Document the improvements you're making to everyday processes. Seriously, you aren't bragging. You are just making your vital contributions visible to the people who are making decisions about your future.
Moving right along, let's dive into our second section, the comfort trap.
This brings us to mistake number 3, which is thinking that learning ends after college. And wow, this is incredibly dangerous, especially right now when technology and AI are completely reshaping the industry landscape every single month. Your degree? Yeah, that gets your foot in the door. It gets you hired. But your continuous learning is the only thing that actually keeps you employable. Industries are constantly shifting, so if you stop learning the second you land a job, you are actively making yourself obsolete. So what's the fix? The absolute game changer here is to dedicate just 1 hour every single day to learning new skills. We're talking about AI, communication, leadership, business strategy, technology, problem solving, you name it. It doesn't require some massive, overwhelming time commitment. It just requires consistency. Just 1 hour. Because make no mistake about it, your future salary depends entirely on your future skills.
Actually, let's jump to mistake number 5 for a second because it fits perfectly right here in this comfort trap. And that is avoiding difficult, uncomfortable conversations. This ultimately breeds so much frustration because, frankly, silence often costs you way more than speaking up ever would. So many professionals avoid conflict just because it feels awkward. They don't ask for feedback, so they never improve. They don't negotiate their salary, so they leave money on the table. They don't clarify expectations, which leads straight to burnout. And they never learn how to professionally say no. Listen, growth exists outside of your comfort zone. Have these conversations respectfully. Feedback creates improvement, and honest communication builds real trust.
Okay, let's pivot to our third theme, the victim mentality.
This is where we hit mistake number 4, blaming external factors for your situation. Look, even if you are partly right, blaming simply doesn't improve your career. Taking true ownership does.
Some people are constantly pointing fingers at their manager, their company, the economy, or their teammates. But true ownership is about focusing entirely on what you can actually control. Ask yourself, can I improve my skills? Can I network better? Can I solve bigger problems? The exact moment you stop pointing fingers is the moment your career actually starts moving forward again.
And of course, social media completely fuels our sixth mistake, the unfair, toxic daily habit of comparing your beginning to someone else's peak. You know how it is. You log on, you see someone get a massive promotion, buy a huge house, or start a widely successful company, and suddenly, you just feel behind. But you have to remember this. You are comparing your Chapter 2 with someone else's Chapter 15. It's a totally unfair and inaccurate metric.
Remember, career growth is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You have got to stop comparing yourself with other people and start comparing yourself strictly with who you were yesterday. That's the real test. Ask yourself, are you improving? Are you compounding your knowledge? Because at the end of the day, that is the only comparison that actually yields positive results.
All right, moving to Section 4, the vision deficit.
Living without a career vision means that every single decision becomes difficult, new opportunities look confusing, and every little setback feels entirely permanent. So where do you want to be in 5 years? It's funny, so many professionals completely freeze when they're asked this question, but without a direction, you are literally just drifting. You don't know which projects to take on, which skills to learn, or which jobs you should even be applying for.
Highly successful people don't just work blindly. They use a very clear vision to guide their daily decisions and build towards a specific future. To cure this vision deficit, you've got to sit down and ask yourself the hard questions. Who do I want to become? What specific skills will future industries actually need from me? What kind of life do I truly want to live? Getting crystal clear on these answers filters out all the background noise and makes your daily career decisions incredibly easy.
And that brings us to our final section, changing your thinking.
Let's be real, your career isn't destroyed overnight. It is slowly dismantled by these small thinking mistakes repeated day after day. Let's do a super quick recap of the 7 mistakes we've diagnosed in this explainer today, just so you can spot them before they take root. 1. Believing hard work alone is enough without strategic impact. 2. Waiting for others to notice your good work instead of building your own brand. 3. Stopping your learning journey the second you get hired. 4. Blaming others instead of taking extreme ownership. 5. Avoiding difficult but completely necessary conversations. 6. Unfairly comparing yourself with others online. And 7. Living and working without a clear, guiding vision.
The good news? The very moment you shift away from these traps, you trigger this incredibly powerful domino effect. First, your actions change. Then, your results change. And inevitably, your career changes. It's a completely linear progression. You can't change your career without changing your results. You can't change your results without changing your daily actions. And you definitely cannot change your actions until you fix your underlying thinking.
So please keep this core truth in mind as you navigate your professional journey moving forward. Your career doesn't grow simply because time passes. It grows because your thinking evolves. Honestly, 10 years of experience means absolutely nothing if it's just 1 year of flawed thinking repeated 10 times over.
So I'll leave you with this. Which of these 7 thinking mistakes have you made? And more importantly, which one are you going to fix first? I'd love for you to drop your answer in the comments below. If this explainer shifted your perspective today, make sure to hit subscribe to Globet-Thoughts for more deep dives into clear thinking and professional mastery. And hey, share this with someone you know who is working hard to build their career. Thanks so much for hanging out and expanding your thinking with me today, and I will see you in the next explainer.